Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for yet more dedicated legacy action. As you probably have seen on my channel, we are doing Depthsember. So we're playing a lot of Dark Depths deck, and today is no different. We are playing an interesting build that I saw from a user called Kilroy Was, and this is JUND Depths. So I say JUND, it's mainly green-black depths, but splashing Fable of the Mirror Breaker and a couple of Pyroblasts. Now, Fable of the Mirror Breaker is a very powerful card, so I can certainly see why you'd want this in your deck. This is an interesting place to put it, and this was a 5-0 deck, so I thought, why not give it a crack and see how it feels? So what is this deck aiming to do? We're aiming to put a Dark Depths into play, and either a Thespian stage or a Vampire Hexmage. So we've got both of the combo pieces to go with it, so we can try and make ourselves a 2020 pretty sharpish. We've got these Elvish Reclaimers and crop rotations to try and find our pieces. And then we've got a little suite of disruption in the form of Inquisition of Kozilek, Thoughtseize, and a single Assassin's Trophy, an opposition agent which can certainly mess with our opponent's things, and those are going to sort of try and help us get there. We've also got the 4 Pithing Needles, which are going to be used to name Wasteland most of the time, and Sylvan Library is doing a similar job to the Fable of the Mirror Breaker most of the time, where it's digging us, but obviously the Fable of the Mirror Breaker on its own can kind of do a lot. And our backup plan in this deck is these 3 Urza Sagas, which we can hopefully make some constructs with, which will be an okay size because we've got Pithing Needles, but Fable of the Mirror Breaker certainly makes these a lot larger because you get the treasure tokens off your guys, and also these are nice things to copy with the backside of the Fable. So, a few interesting things I've noticed about this list. No Yawgmoth, which I understand because we want to have as much black mana as possible because we're trying to cast a black spell as early as possible. But I think having one of might be an interesting thing to include because it makes your Dark Depths actually tap for mana so you can go off a bit quicker. But that's not in here, maybe because we're jamming in these couple of red spells. So we'll have a look and see how we feel about it later on. So the utility lands we've got here, we've got one Sejiri Steppe, so we've got a little bit of protection built in with our crop rotation and Elvish Reclaimer to keep our 2020 alive for a turn. We've got the Ghost Quarter, which is what we're playing instead of Wasteland because we're going to be needling the Wasteland, so the Ghost Quarter can hit Karakas on our opponent's side or opposing Wastelands or whatever we need to. And we've got a single Boseiju, which is an interesting one because we can't tutor for it with any of our crop rotations or Reclaimers. It's just a good card to have that we can use as a land to channel away. We're not really getting any additional value from the fact that it's a land necessarily, it's kind of just a good utility spell. And we've got Bojuka Bog, which is pretty standard for these, especially the black builds where the black mana it produces is actually useful. So we'll be hoping to leverage this to win some games against Reanimates, perhaps. We have 2 Mox Diamond, which is an interesting number to me, but obviously whoever's been playing this list has been tuning it, and that's the number they came to, so I'm going to trust them on that one. And that's pretty much it for the main deck. I will say the single opposition agent looks a bit weird to me, but we'll hopefully see how that goes. Maybe they just have one slot. Perhaps you would just want a 3rd Fable of the Mirror Breaker, since if you're splashing a whole nother colour just to cast this Fable, maybe you want to be able to do more Fables, so it's more worthwhile to have the splash. So we have 2 sources, so 4 sources total, 2 lands and 2 Mox Diamonds to cast our Fable of the Mirror Breaker. But we can find these with our land finding things as well as these 4 fetch lands we have. So I'm not sure how reliably we're going to be able to find the red mana, but we'll see as the games go on. That's it for the main deck. I guess we have 1 Expedition map and 1 Shadowspear, which you probably mentioned. These are just things that we can find off the Urza Saga. Alright, as for sideboard, we've got a 2nd opposition agent, which kind of makes the one in the main make a little bit more sense, because having 2 is a more relevant number in your 75, and maybe they just had 1 sideboard slot, so they thought they'd pre-board that 1 slot, which I can kind of get. 2 Plague Engineers, which is pretty standard these days in a lot of black decks because elves is a thing and you can name it on humans against death and taxes, and there's various other uses for this as well. Hamster against Minsk and Boo being one of them. We have 4 Leyline the Void. If you're in a black deck, I think you just want the ley lines. They're the best graveyard hate you can have, so it makes sense to have them. The 2 Pyroblast, which is for our red splash. This is what this is getting us. We've got our Singleton Choke. How reliably are we going to get a Singleton going? I don't know. In other decks, you probably have 2 of these, and one of the Pyroblast slots would be a Choke. But this gives us a way of killing a Murktide Regent or something like that if we need to. We've got 1 Toxic Deluge, so this is just going to be an emergency button to blow up a load of creatures. A couple of Torpor Orbs for death and taxes, and the initiative. Now, whether or not you can get this down before the initiative gets to do its thing, not entirely sure, but it's okay. And a couple of Force of Vigor to blow up things like Blood Moon and so on and so forth. I think we will struggle a little bit against Blood Moons here. We've only got 2 Force of Vigors and an Assassin's Trophy, which isn't a lot. Now, we can sort of play a Fable of the Mirror Breaker type game against it. So maybe that's where that's going to shine best. But that remains to be seen. I guess we're just going to have to run it and see how it goes. So before we jump into another Depth December League, let me just say I appreciate all the people who have been liking my comments, liking my content this year. I've only been doing it for a few months and I've already got quite a few subscribers, so thank you very much for that. And if you can keep liking and commenting and sharing, and that would really help. To those who are finding my channel for the first time, why not give me a subscribe? It doesn't cost you anything, it really helps me out and supports people making content for this brilliant format that is Legacy. Alright, plug done. Let's jump into a league with JUND Depths. We're on the play, our opponent is a 60 card deck. So that means less likely to be oops or spells, and it's not a Yori on list. This is our opening hand. What does it do? Not a lot, to be honest. We don't have either part of our combo, really. We do have a crop rotation, but I don't think we can keep this. It's just a bit dull, really. We need some more action. Well, this is certainly not dull, is it? So we can play out Pithing Needle, and we can play it as a Saga game here, or we can play out the Dark Depths game here. I think we're going to keep this hand. One of these cards has to go back. So we can bin off the crop rotation and play a Saga game here by using the diamond and throwing away the depths. So we can turn 1 just play out the Saga and the Pithing Needle. Or we can throw away the depths here, the Fable. But it's going to require us to draw another land. The thing is, if we throw the depths away and things go wrong later, we can always crop rotate, and we can crop rotate the Saga away. So I think we'll put the Fable away here. We're going to have less cards to discard to the Fable anyway. We'll play this Pithing Needle. And we're going to name Wasteland because we're not very good against a Wasteland right now. And that's why they're in the deck. So we could play out this Mox Diamond now, which would give us the ability to crop rotate if something happens to our as a Saga. But I think we'd probably just hold on in case we draw a land next turn, because we'd have better options. If this didn't resolve, then I would play out the Mox Diamond so we could crop rotate if something happened to our Saga. Our opponent has a Saga, I see. Back to us. A Boseiju. That's a pretty interesting one. I think we're just going to Mox Diamond, pitching the... this is tricky. Maybe it is still the Dark Depths. We can keep the Boseiju for our opponent's one if we need to. I think this is the better play. We can also do the Thespian stage copy trick where you copy it, wait till it gets to stage 2, copy something else, so it just stays like that forever. But I think we're better off just playing the other Saga game this way. We're ahead on the Saga for now, and we have a Boseiju if we need it. I have to imagine our opponent's going to play a Soul Land so that they can pump out the Saga, because you wouldn't play a Saga on turn 1 unless you're going to activate. So there's the City of Traitors. As expected. City of Traitors is an interesting one. This means our opponent's probably more likely on something like Painter. They're just going to let us search for this. We'll get another Pithing Needle. They might not think we have another Pithing Needle, to be fair. So we'll name the Saga now we've finished getting our own Saga. And we can play this one out. We can go to attacks. So we've kind of blanked our opponent's first 2 turns quite nicely. Possibly first 3 turns to an extent. We'll see what our opponent has for us. We don't really look like a Dark Depths deck. We look more like sort of regularly lands type thing. Okay, so they're just going to tap this for mana. They're probably going to lose their city this turn as well. So yeah, they are a painter deck. This is a little bit awkward for us, isn't it? Have we got anything that can mess with our opponent here? I don't think we have any outs here. This is annoying. We could have got the Pithing Needle on the Grindstone there. But I didn't think my opponent would have yet another Soul Land straight away from that, as well as having the Grindstone in hand. So I just got bopped by our opponent having the absolute nuts there. Yikes. Better lucky than good, I suppose. So what are we looking at here? These Force of Vigors are going to be useful. The opposition agent certainly has text, because I have to imagine that they're playing the sort of standard red build with like welders and things. So these cards are going to be useful. The Plague Engineers can kill some of their little guys And the ley lines can also stop some things too. So we've got a selection of options here. Now our opponent is going to be a Blood Moon deck, which is going to be difficult for us to deal with. So we're probably looking at, we have to keep in our Fables and things. So we're looking at maybe trimming some of our combo-y things to deal with Blood Moon, perhaps. The Karakas isn't going to have any joy here. The Boseiju is hopefully how we're going to blow up a Blood Moon if it comes to it. The Ghost Court here has got text. The Sejiri Steppe is probably not necessary. We can use it to protect our other guys. Maybe that would be good enough to keep it in our deck. I'm not sure. I think the things we're bringing in are just better here, aren't they? We need to keep our green count high. So we're probably looking at trimming some amount of Hexmages here. So there's 59 cards. So if you want the ley lines, we're going to have to do a lot more trimming. The Pithing Needle is going to be good. Probably don't need the Expedition map. We can probably just have a couple of ley lines for that. Or we can have these Plague Engineers on Goblin. I don't want to board in the Pyroblast and play the Can I Pyroblast when you have Painter in play game. I think that's worth doing. So a couple of these. I think we need the Sylvan Library. I think we're just taking out the Hexmages here in favour of these ley lines. I don't think we can fit these in, but maybe we should have them in. Maybe we're looking at trimming some crop rotations just to get these in. Just because they're things we can do under a Blood Moon. Pretty annoyed about losing that first game. Let's have a look. So we have a Force of Vigor. We have a Boseiju. These are both things I think we can keep here. This hand is a bit slow, I won't lie. It's not very exciting to me. Our opponent's mulligan to 5 though, which makes this keep a lot better. If we can snag a 2-for-1 with the Force of Vigor, I think the game should be sewn up. I have to imagine our opponent is mulliganing to Magus of the Moon, or at least a hand that goes very fast. So if they play a Blood Moon effect, then we can always play the Dark Depths. Okay, so opponent's gone for a Welder there. A green source would be great. A green land here would be great, but if we don't have one, we don't have one. I think the best play here is just to get our Sylvan Library online. Like, we could hold up this Boseiju, but I don't think that's going to give us inroads to the game. We are dropping our Force of Vigor, but we have other green cards we can find. We did cut 2 crop rotations, but other than that, we should be okay for green cards. Now, they can play Soul Land Magus this turn. That's probably the best thing they can do. Which is pretty good, but Sylvan Library will hopefully do the work it needs to do. Okay, Great Furnace. That is an artifact that we can hit. Now, our opponent has the Welder, so we can't necessarily hit this because they can just weld it back and forth. A Brayer's Apprentice, sure. So going for the value of trying to get back into the game. There's definitely a choice of doing this right away for them. Yeah, so they're doing this so I can't interfere with it. So let's have a little look with our Sylvan Library. Not a fan of this ley line right now. Can we afford to pay 4 life? Okay, we're going to keep one of these cards. I think we're playing out the Verdant Catacombs so we can go and get our green source. This means that we're protected from Blood Moons. And then next turn we can try and do a Force of Vigor. Okay, so keeping the Brayer back because the Brayer's ability is a tap ability. It taps, so lets them sack a guy and play the top card of their library until the end of their next turn, I think it is. Until the end of your next turn, yeah. Ancient Tomb, that's a pretty good find for them. Painter's Servant. Feel a little bit behind here. We're going to get this Forest. Allows us to play under Blood Moon a bit better than having any other basic. Lay under the Void that we just shuffled away. Sure. We'll use the ability. A green card would have been nice here. We're in a tricky spot here. I think we put this on top. We kind of need to plow through these at some point, but I guess we don't need to do it now. So we can play out the ley line this turn if we want, which gives us the ability to stop the Welder shenanigans. But if we do that and our shields go down, our opponent could kill us. So we're in a pretty awkward spot there. They do have the Pyroblast available as well. I think we're just playing out the Saga and heading towards the Pithing Needle with that one. So if our opponent taps down end of turn to get the Great Furnace back or something like that, then we can use our Force of Vigor. Now we do have the uncounterable destruction in the form of Boseiju here. going to be very hard for us to get through a pyroblast if they have one. Okay. The timing of when we need to try and do our things is a bit awkward as well. A Magus of the Moon. So we're going to lose our Urza Saga here. So we can try and go for the high value play of the Force of Vigor. But if that goes wrong, if they pyroblast that, we're in trouble. But if we hit this and this, they are just going to get them both back in play anyway. So I don't really know what we're supposed to do now. Guess we'll float some mana. So now I have a choice. I think we're just going to hardcast this like this. It's not great, but it will have to do. Now what they can do is they can just welder things in and out anyway. Still not worried about that first game. I think we did the correct play of getting rid of the Urza Saga. There's a lot to expect that they needed to have the other soul land in hand for that to work, but I don't know, maybe I should have named it a thing. Okay, so there's this blowing up our forest. And are they also going to welder this guy out? Sure. I find matchups against Painter tend to be very, very swingy one way or the other. They either kind of do nothing and you get crushed, or they kind of roll you over. That's generally my experience against the red paint decks. Okay, so this needs to find us something good here. Did not find us anything good. How much damage are you looking at here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can afford to take one card this turn, but that doesn't really get us anywhere. I think we're just dead. I just scoop this one up. Yeah, that first game, I should have played around a soul land in their hand. Alright, let's go on to the second round. We're on the play. Our hand doesn't have any mana. We have to mulligan. We need some green mana, really. We can't keep this. It's the best of a bad bunch, so we'll keep this. So we've got to get rid of 2 cards here. Probably the Badlands. And it doesn't really matter which one of these because it's going under the Mox Diamond anyway, isn't it? I think we play Saga, Mox Diamond, imprint a land, Thoughtseize our opponent. Now the question then becomes, I think we're better off just keeping the green mana available. Sure. So we're playing a Saga game today. So let's play this one out. We could get rid of the Thespian stage here. Or if we get rid of the snow-covered forest and we somehow lose our Mox Diamond, we're in a lot of trouble. But this does allow us to combo off. Go on then, let's try the basic. Let's see what our opponent's working with. Okay, so it's a Delver deck. So they've got 2 Delvers over there. They've got this Lightning Bolt, which is the only thing that really interacts with what we're doing, I think, for now. I think we just hit the Bolt and we just play out the Saga game as best we can. So a Saga game usually is alright against Delver if they can't, on the first game at least, because if they can't get rid of your guys with their 3/3. So there's Misty Rainforest. I'm assuming we're going to see a Delver here. It's the only sensible one, I think. Basic Island is interesting. Oh, they're going for the Ponder. Interesting. I'd assume you want to just get a threat down and then next turn Ponder and maybe deploy the second threat. Perhaps they're really worried about their mana base. They did go and get the basic there. Okay. The Thespian stage, sure. Unless they're just really desperate for a wasteland before our Urza Saga pops. There's a Delver. Sure. Got a follow-up land. I got a wasteland. They're hitting our stage. That's interesting to me. We can turn this into an island to protect this, but I think we're just better off making a guy. They're really scared of the 2020, I guess. We don't get to get the other activation of the Saga here. But we do get to get a Shadowspear on our guy. So this will be above bolt range now. And our opponent missed their second land drop, so they're not going to be racing to Murktide that quickly. I suppose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they could, but it won't be a very big Murktide. It'll be 1, 2. Let's have a fetch land here. Okay, they revealed a Ponder. Sure. And there's a Ponder. And they got fetch land. What are they deploying here? The other Ponder. Sure. So they can make a pretty big Murktide in the near future. But we get to fire off a Thoughtseize this turn. Around the days in our opponent's hand. So this is presumably coming in, it's not blocking. See what we get. Crop rotation. I think that's worth trying to do anything with here. I think our best play is to Thoughtseize and see if they have a Murktide on top, in their hand, sorry. They do have a Murktide, so that's the one thing we're scared of, so we get rid of this Murktide and keep on swinging. Like, they'd have to block with 2 Delvers that had flipped in order to trade with our Construct token. Okay, this is the EI. Yep. Delver of Secrets in the Exile Zone, which is presumably getting cast now. Interesting, they're not attacking there. Okay, that's fine. So then we cut this for a... Probably the Taiga is the one we need the least, isn't it? So we'll sacrifice this Taiga. Playing around days here. The opponent top deck a Force of Will. They did top deck a Force of Will. Interesting. Okay, this game has gone weird. We're going to need to draw into some business here. What did they exile? They exiled the Days. And played the Misty Rainforest out as well. So they got Delver available, I think. Yeah, there it is. And Dragon's Rage Channeler. Our opponent's ripping pretty good. Pithing Needle. Can name Wasteland. I think we're in the market for this. We've got a little bit of a life total to work with. So this gives us protection from the Wasteland. So we can maybe make a 2020 if we need 2 draws to make that happen though, because we won't have quite enough mana yet. Our crop rotation getting hit there was a bit of a blow. I had 1 blind draw and it just happened to be the Force. Pity. That seemed like about a third of their deck though. So we're going to get crashed down pretty hard here. So another as a Saga is a fine draw here. Hexmage, which we can't cast. Okay. Not looking special for us right now. Yep, so going to get the EI back. There's a reason why Delver is the best deck in the format. Right. So they get to do another draw 2 spell for 2 mana. Putting away Force of Wills there. I'm not really sure what they're looking for. Maybe just a Murktide to close the game quickly. Or just another threat. Because Wastelands don't do anything here. Maybe a Brazen Borrower. Could be a thing they're looking for just to bounce our guy. Murktide Regent. Okay, so there's the big guy. Our Hexmage can shrink their Murktide. Sure. Just a 2 mana 8/8. Okay. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we're dead on our next turn. Not sure we can draw to save us at this point. A crop rotation. So we crop rotate this into what exactly? It's a bit late to try and Bojuka Bog our opponents. No, we're just dead here. Unfortunate. Okay, so we've got Delver, so that's where these Pyroblasts should hopefully shine. The Choke is going to be good here as well. And the ley lines are pretty good against Delver. It massively slows their clock down. Is Fable the Mirror Breaker something we want to be messing with in this matchup? I don't like Opposition Agent against Delver decks. The Karakas isn't going to do us any favours. Any other lands that we can get rid of? No, not that I can see here. All pretty useful. Crop rotations against counterspell decks, not great. As a general rule. So then we're looking at this selection of things here. So it's probably... Is it one of the Fables? Although the Fables are really good with ley lines because it lets us pitch additional ley lines that we don't want. This is an answer for Murktide. I think we have to keep it in the deck. All these sorts of Inquisition-y things are okay. I don't know if we want to have... Sometimes we need to punch through a hole. Sylvan Library should hopefully let us draw out as well. Maybe the Sylvan Library is too slow here. Maybe we can drop the library. Try it like this. So this hand has no green mana. I think we have to mulligan. This is a better hand. We'll keep this. One of these has to go back. So we're going to keep our green sources here. We're probably just playing an Urza Saga game here, which means we're putting back the Hexmage. We say done. We start with the ley line in play. I think we play out this Mox Diamond. We'll pitch our Dark Depths. Maybe we won't do that then. Interesting. We've got Ponder out of our opponent's hand there. I think we have to play out the Saga here. Saga is awkward though. We don't really want to expose our Bayou to a wasteland. We want to be able to get something out of it. This means we're not going to get tokens out of this. which is a problem. I'm not a big fan of the Urza Saga on this deck. I think your deck's already pulling a bit too much in other directions. Okay. So they had the one threat that gets around what we're doing here. Okay, so we have this Urza Saga ticking up. And just play out another Saga or just play out the Bayou here. I think we just play out the Bayou here. This Saga isn't going to get to do an awful lot, sadly. If we were to play out the other Saga, we could use the mana from this one into activating this one next turn, but we're probably just casting a choke. Okay, our opponent drew an expressive iteration off the top, which is pretty good for them. They have a wasteland. Are we losing the Saga or the Bayou? We're losing the Bayou. Okay. It's going to be a tough one, this. So I think we get the Mox Diamond here. We pitch our Dark Depths. We play out our Urza Saga. We play out our choke. So we know three of the cards, we know one of the cards in our hand, and we've already seen a Force of Will. Okay, so they get one go around with their island here. Now they do have an Insectile Aberration that's beating us down, but they have to be very careful with the spells they cast. Fable the Mirror Breaker, that's a pretty good one. I think we are just playing out our Verdant Catacombs here. I don't expect our opponent to have Stifle in their deck. So this gets us a snow-covered forest, because that can't be wastelanded away. So I think this turn we are just Urza Sagaing, and then Urza Sagaing, and then trying to win with a Shadowspear maybe, but our opponent could be saving up for Brotherhood's End, in which case we reload with a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And that will take our opponent's entire mana base to do. Let's make a guy. So they can lightning bolt this one. Are they going to let us fetch and get rid of their Misty Rainforest here? They are. I think we do get rid of the Misty Rainforest here. So our clock is better than our opponent's right now. We have a 2-turn clock, they have a 3-turn clock. They do get to go first though. Oh, sorry, they have a 4-turn clock, sorry. And we have a 2-turn clock. So now our lightning bolt changes that. A brainstorm. Okay, so that's one island down. So I had the feeling our opponent was trying to Brotherhood's End us here. So the Pithing Needle stops them being able to do that, whereas the Shadowspear just lets them do that, and we didn't really get any sort of action going on. Brainstorm. Into the exile zone. Dragon's Rage Channeler. Okay, that's a good one. It's only a 1-1, but it does filter their draws really effectively. Let's see what we get. A snow-covered swamp. So I think we... do we play out the swamp here? I think we probably do. Well, we have to actually, don't we? Sorry. I was thinking about daisies, but we lost our land earlier, didn't we? So this is Fable the Mirror Breaker. Just gets us another guy, which also makes artifacts. So we've got 8 coming in this turn. Our opponent can't Brotherhood's End us next turn. Now they might still be on the old school Meltdown, which they could do next turn. Which should certainly do some work against us. Mystic Sanctuary. And a Ponder. Sure. So their Channeler's not going to be able to flip while the Leyline's in play. So this is some of the things they skim through, Murktide, Brainstorm, etc, etc. So let's have a look. They shuffle their libraries, that's good for us. That means they don't have the solution readily available to them. So we take 3 here. So we have lethal on board, because these become bigger in a second. We can get rid of their volcanic island here with the Boseiju here. So I think I'll probably get rid of this, just this Hexmage for another Hexmage. Okay. I think we attack with all of our guys. So these become 5/5s. And our opponent has to block one of them and then they die. So they have a lightning bolt, they can bolt this. Okay, sure. So we got the game. So is there anything I'd like to do differently for this game? I could play something like a Toxic Deluge to try and deal with our opponent's guys. That's a bit of a risky proposition though. I think we're better off just having these pyroblasts. Yeah, that's fine. Let's submit. Maybe we can actually have like a proper Dark Depthsy game and just make the 2020. So we've got a little bit of disruption off of the Inquisition into an Urza Saga plan. Is that good? Is that good enough? If can always Urza Saga with a Pithing Needle on turn 1 instead. Like, I think this is fine if we can get some work with the Inquisition. If we draw a way of speeding up our clock, we can go and do different things. Okay, so they have a Dragon's Rage Channeler. Let's see what we get. Okay, so let's go and get ourselves a basic swamp, purposes of Wasteland, and we will Inquisition our opponent. What have you got for us? Expressive Iteration, Force of Will, Brainstorm, Wasteland. Interesting. Obviously, Expressive Iteration is the better card there, but they don't have the ability to cast it just yet. This is tricky. I think it is the Brainstorm here. Now, this could obviously backfire. Our opponent could just immediately draw a land, and, you know, what Delver decks love to do is draw the right thing at the right time. Okay, they just drew another Brainstorm. Sure. Okay. Sometimes they have it. So I think we play out the Needle this turn, and then see what our opponent does. So these cards are potentially floating in our opponent's hand right now. So we're only taking 1 this turn. We've got 2 types, but they have a land they can put in for the 3rd type. It's the elusive 4th type that's always a little bit tricky. That does change things a little bit. I think we play this as a Saga out first, just so we can play around a potential daze. Alright, it's Pithing Needle on the Wasteland that we know our opponent has. Okay, so we're getting the Force of Will, pitching a daze. Okay. They left their card on top, so it's one of these. And then we can play our Expedition map. So we forced the extra card out of their hand there because we played around the daze. Now they can just go and Wasteland our as a Saga. Expressive Iteration. So if the Wasteland is still on top, that can be their free card for the turn. They've left their card on top. There's the Wasteland. There goes our thing. So they still only have a 1/1 channeler, so this is okay for now. Opponent's down to 2 cards. Fable the Mirrorbreaker isn't really where we want to be right now. I think we just play out this Saga, and then we can use this to go and get a Thespian stage if we need to. So we can represent multiple ways of winning this game. Scalding Tile from our opponent. And then a jab for 1. We're going to get Murktided here. Feels like we're getting Murktided. Yep, so there's the Murktide. Sure. 1 card in our opponent's hand. The other option is I crack this for a Bojuka Bog, but now that option's been taken away from us anyway. So we'll just go and get this Thespian stage. So we play out a Thespian stage. We take 8 this turn. Well, we'll probably only take 7 because we can trade the Urza Saga token for the Dragon's Rage Channeler. And then next turn we make a Dark Depths as long as they didn't put I didn't put a Wasteland into play. This is 7. It's going to be a tight game, this one. So I'll make this. Are they going to let me Pithing Needle both of their Scalding Tarns? Looks like they are. There's not a way that I can name Brazen Borrower, unfortunately. We're not going to have a lot of resources after this, so we are dead to a Brazen Borrower. But there's maybe 2 in their deck, so... Okay, so doing a little scry here. Where's this going? Ah, face, sure. So... They've got 1 draw, and then their Murktide region has to go under the bus. Okay. That's something. Lair in the Void. Time has kind of passed for that one, isn't it? So, going to attacks with our Marit Lage. Do we get to eat the Murktide? We do get to eat the Murktide. That's good news. I think we are cracking this. We're already dead to 2 bolts anyway. So we'll go and get a Badlands so we can cast our Vampire Hexmage just as another creature. So we got Fade. 1 more draw from our opponent. They've got 2 types in their graveyard right now. No, 3 types. They can't put these lands in their graveyard though. They can put that one in their graveyard. So this can fly on their turn. So Bojuka Bog will be a pretty good rip here. Sejiri Steppe. That's pretty good too. Give our guy pro-red. Yep, okay, so we managed to get the match there against Delver. Oh, it was looking a bit difficult at times there, but we did manage to pull it out with an actual Dark Depths win. Which does feel better than the Urza Saga thing. Like, our deck is slightly more dedicated. It is slightly less dedicated than other decks because we've got this whole Urza Saga package, which feels like a trap in some of the games. Need to get more of a feel about when it's right to dive into Urza and when it's right to dive into depths. All right, so that's the end of that round. Let's go to the next one. We're on the play for this round. We have a turn 3 combo, but with like no protection and no real disruption. I don't know if that's going to be very quick. And we can certainly be disrupted. I guess we give it a go. That's what we're here for. So we can play this one out. This one out. Our opponent's probably going to know what's up. Bayou into Expedition map is usually broadcasting the fact that I'm trying to dark depth them. Ancient Tomb. Which Ancient Tomb deck is this going to be? Chalice of the Void for 1. That does nothing for us. Sure. We've already played our 1-drop that we care about. Oh, we even got a removal spell for it if we want as well. So I guess we play out this Thespian stage. And then we can just hold open for the Expedition map if we need to. An Arab Mesa. So looking at red-white initiative here would be my assumption. So there's a Chromox imprinting Shatter Skull Smashing. Sure. They're cracking the Mesa. What are we looking at? Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Sure. So it's going to put them into the initiative. Or whatever it's called, the dungeon, the Undercity, that's the one. So this can hit us for 7 next turn, which is not a tiny amount of damage, is it? So we're going to get ourselves a Dark Depths. It's back to us. Have a Pithing Needle, or we can play out this Verdant Catacombs now and hold up the opposition agent so we can steal back the initiative if something goes horribly wrong for us. I think that's better. So I have to imagine they're just going down the Forge side here since they have got a big threat in play and 4 cards in hand. Yeah, so there we go. 2 counters on the Caves of Chaos Adventurer, so we can't trade with it with our opposition agent now. But depending on what our opponent does, we might be able to get a little bit of joy from our opposition agent hitting them and stealing the initiative for us. Basic Mountain. This is another Caves of Chaos Adventurer. No, it's a 5 mana guy. Is this a Fury? It is a Fury. Interesting. So this isn't going to hit anything. So this is 6 plus 7. So this is going to be lethal damage if it connects. And we've got 5 coming in as well. So we definitely need to make a guy here. We don't want to show them the Taiga, I don't think. So we're just going to get ourselves a Bayou here. And flash this guy in. Our opponent's probably not running Wastelands. So we have a 20/20 to block with and a 3/2 to block with. And then we hopefully kill them with the 20/20. Like, we can't Thoughtseize them because of the Chalice. We could Boseiju the Chalice and then Thoughtseize them. What's the exact text on this? Reveal the top 10 cards. It's not search the top 10 cards. That would be better. So we have to make the Dark Depths token for blocks. They could touch the Spirit Realm Master though. But we didn't really have the 10 to do that. Goblin Rabble Master is a pretty good one. This gives them some more lads. Let's see what the Caves of Chaos Adventure exiles. Another Caves of Chaos Adventure, sure. We have to do this, otherwise we die, so let's see if it's good. We get a block. So this can block here. And this, I think we just block it here just to save the damage. So we only take 1 this turn, and we get to kill their Caves of Chaos Adventure. More importantly, we have a 20 power creature with evasion on the board. Maybe they're trying to draw into Solitude here. With the archives on the Undercity. Did they get there? They did not get there. So our slow 20/20 was just quick enough because our opponent couldn't interact with it. They are probably not running Plowshares because they have the Chalice, but they might cut the Chalice out. So Torpor Orbs are going to be good here. Not a fan of Opposition Agent in this matchup. The Plague Engineers can block and do some cool stuff. We're not really going to be getting cards off of the library, I don't think, here. So we can bin that off. Do I want to be taking damage from Thoughtseizes? Hard to say, because the Thoughtseize gives us the ability to hit our opponent's Solitude. We don't know how many Touch the Spirit Realm effects our opponent could be running, so I'm not sure if we can cut all the Pithing Needles yet or not. The other thing we might want here is a Toxic Deluge, but that's such a risky proposition to just pay that much life. I just don't know if we can realistically do that. I'd rather have Virtue's Ruin in the sideboard. But again, that won't kill the Caves of Chaos Adventurer. So maybe we need these. Maybe we need the Deluge. Just as like a, oh crap, I need to do this button. So let's try and get rid of one of the Pithing Needles and see how we go. Also lets us kill a Magus of the Moon if that's something we have to worry about. Force of Vigor could be useful against Blood Moon if they have Blood Moon. But are they going to have Blood Moon or are they going to have Magus of the Moon? That's the question here. We can have like one hedge Force of Vigor. But having the Pithing Needle just in our deck is nice though. The Karakas might not be doing anything here. Maybe we can swap a Karakas for a Force of Vigor. And we can probably swap a Bojuka Bog for a Force of Vigor actually. Let's try that out. Let's see how we do. This gets us there. It's hard though, because this is not the colour we need it to be. We don't really have any interaction with our opponent either. Maybe this isn't good enough. I don't think it's good enough on the draw. I'll probably keep that on the play, but... Okay, so we've got turn 1 Torpor Orb. I think we can keep a turn 1 Torpor Orb. I don't think we need a Pithing Needle here. So let's hope that our opponent doesn't have a hammer. They make something really scary on turn 1. Okay, they're just making a 1-drop by the looks of it. Which means the Chalice is out of the deck. Oh no, they just got the Chromox to follow up with, sure. What is that? Caves of Chaos Adventure. Okay, and Sealing Spirit Guide. So they have a Magus of the Moon on 1. That's pretty good against us. But we do have a Mox Diamond, so it's not the end of the world. So we can play out this land, we can play out this land, and this can pitch the Badlands, and then we can play this out. So they can't get the initiative, but we can't get a 2020 while this is in play. We do have a Toxic Deluge and an Assassin's Trophy, both of which we can cast with our current setup of mana. We have a Plague Engineer, which can roadblock this for a bit. Fable the Mirror Breaker, that's a pretty good one. Does it matter what we play here? I don't think so. Then we just play this one out. Okay. So we should be able to get some mana going. If we can flip the Fable the Mirror Breaker, we might be able to win this game. Chalice for 1. Sure, I don't care about that. They're not going to attack because they do not want this trade. Trade is much better for me. Sure, so we can discard 2 cards. So we get rid of these two mountains. Another Thespian stage. Not great, is it? So we can attack here. And our opponent is probably not going to let the Magus of the Moon die. But then we take 2 on the backswing. It's kind of much of a muchness either way, isn't it? I think we just hold back this turn and then we can flip Fable the Mirror Breaker and start copying these guys. What we can do is we can Fable the Mirror Breaker, copy itself, make a load of copies and just beat our opponent down that way. So we can do that in our opponent's end step. So if we draw a land, we can make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. By the time we can actually use our Fable with the Mirror Breaker, it's got Summoning Sickness. We don't get to do anything with it next turn. But our opponent's only got 2 cards. They were very much all in on this Magus of the Moon ruining us. But now we're seeing the power of JUND depths with this Fable Mirror Breaker, which is certainly something. Touch of the Spirit Realm. So this is going after our Torpor Orb, I think. This can't hit enchantments. It's artifact or creature. I assume they knew that when they cast it. Yep, so going after Torpor Orb so they can get the initiative going on the next turn, but then we can get the Fable the Mirror Breaker going. So they only have 1 card in hand as well. A Vampire Hexmage. That's not nothing, is it? So would we rather have a coloured source? I think we'd probably rather have a coloured source than this additional thing, although our opponent might have ways of disrupting artifacts. So I think we just, this turn we're playing this guy out, and we're playing this guy out for black. So we can remove counters from the Chalice if we want to, but we don't want to do that because we have a 0-drop in hand, but we can do that if that becomes a thing that we want. So let's see what our opponent has here. Another land. Caves of Chaos Adventure. A Fury. A Fury is a good one. They can't kill all of our guys, but they're probably killing the Reflection and the Shaman here. So that's probably the best card our opponent could draw, really. That might have been the card they were sandbagging all this time, waiting for the answer to the Torpor Orb, though. Interesting choice. Do I want to put the chalice down to 0? I think we probably do. We do have 1-drops in our deck, so I think we just get rid of the counter on the chalice. Okay, we need some action here. A Dark Depths. Okay, so we play out the Dark Depths. It has 0 counters on it. If we draw a Boseiju or a Force of Nature, we can win the game. That's not a place I am unhappy to be. Sorry, not Force of Nature. We need to kill the Magus, don't we? So we need Toxic Deluge or Assassin's Trophy. So we've got two hits. A second Fury is pretty good draw off the top for our opponent there. This will kill us next turn. So we've got 1 turn to draw. Yeah, because these hit for 6 each, right? So we're taking 6 this turn. So this turn we need to draw Toxic Deluge for 3, and then we can win the game. If we draw Assassin's Trophy, we can win the game. It's going to be harder to do it that way, but still possible. So we've got 2 live draws, I think. That is not one of them, so we're just dead there. All right, we'll concede. So on the play, our discard is obviously better. I don't think there's anything else here that is any good. We did see Touch of the Spirit Realm, so Pithing Needles as an option are certainly something we could think about. I think it's more important to blow up our opponent's things, though. So I think we just submit like this again. Yeah, this answers Magus if they go heavy into the Magus. Now we need to draw 1 more land to do that, but our opponent is mulligan to 6 cards now. So this is a turn 3 2020. Turn 1 Reclaimer, turn 2 cycle the forest into a Dark Depths. Turn 3 we actually no, it's a turn 2, right? We change this for a Dark Depths, and then we use black to make the 2020. That does leave us with only 1 land if we do that. So ideally, if we can draw a land this turn, that'll help. A Mox. Okay, so our opponent's going to be all in on whatever this card is that they're playing now. It's just a case of Chaos Adventurer. Looks that way. Seasoned Dungeoneer. Okay, similar but different. Opponent has 2 cards in hand. One of them is a land. So I think what we do here is just do the play that can win us the game. So we sacrifice this for Dark Depths. Black. Make this. I don't think we need to do it now. We can do it on our opponent's turn. Okay, they're going for a Scry 2 here. Let's see where they put them. 2 on the bottom. Okay, so I think they are trying to draw into the removal spell. So it might just be done here. A plateau on top. Sure, we'll take 3 damage here. We can't block this protection from creatures even if we had a 20/20 indestructible. What is our opponent going to do here is the question. They play out the plateau that we know about. They've conceded the game because we're going to make a 20/20. Okay, so we managed to beat Red-White Initiative. I don't think Red-White Initiative is as good as White Initiative. I think just the little things like Arcan and stuff in the white deck are very strong. But I still think Initiative is a strong deck, but managed to beat it is a nice scalp to take. Let's go on to the 4th round. I think we're 2-1. Okay, round 4, this is our opening hand. We can't cast any spells, so, well, we can cast these, but that's not going to help us. We need to mulligan. This is the better hand. We can Elvish Reclaimer and stuff. I think we will keep this. What we're putting back is a little bit harder to suss. I would like to be able to Thoughtseize here. I think it's probably the Pithing Needle, though. Yeah, we need enough mana to activate our things. We can't really put the lands back, and this will find us our combo piece. A Savannah. Okay, so our opponent's deck probably has Wastelands in. Ooh! Infect, you say? Tricky. I haven't got a lot of cards in hand, but they can win on very little resources. An untapped black source would be golden. Oh, there it is. That's the one, isn't it? Let's see what you're working with. Now, they could daze this. No, they can't daze this. They don't have any dazes in hand. Yikes! Yeah, we're in trouble here. We have to take one of these because we die if we don't. Yikes. That was not what I wanted to see. Noble Hierarch. Oh, Jesus. So our opponent can just double pump this now and kill us. That is all she wrote, I'm afraid. We'll let them get it. Get their screenshot for whatever they want to put it on. Not bad. Not a bad Malta 5. Sure. Okay, so what do we want for this matchup? These Plague Engineers are going to be good because all of the things have been errata to say Phyrexian on them, which is nice. The Toxic Deluge definitely has text. Pyroblast can be okay here, but it's not stellar. The Pithing Needle, they tend not to have much in the way of disruption. So sometimes they have one Wasteland and one Karakas type thing. So maybe we could trim on these. Just leave one in for Urza Saga. And then we're asking, is the opposition agent going to do anything in this matchup? It blocks. Sometimes. It blocks some of the things. Would we be better off with the Pyroblast? I think so. This can at least kill one of their guys. The Force of Vigor can kill... Oh, actually, no. The Pithing Needle names Yawgmoth Nexus, doesn't it? What am I doing? We want some of these in. So, Sylvan Library and Fable the Mirror Breaker might be a bit slow here on the top end. So maybe looking at something like this and going much more heavy into black. Do we need all of these Pithing Needles? There's 3 Pithing Needles, 2 Pyroblasts. The best way to hedge here. We do also have the Ghost Quarter that we can shoot it for. And this does hit it too. And the Plague Engineer hits it. I think this is what we do. We're certainly under the gun. That was a very good hand from our opponent. Okay, this is a good hand from us. This is like one of the dream hands. So I can't complain too much about this. So we may kind of get to do the same thing to our opponent they did to us maybe. Let's Thoughtseize our opponent on turn 1 and see what happens. Glistener Elf, Source to Plowshares, Ponder. So we're going to take the thing that disrupts our turn 3 kill. Our opponent's hand is quite slow here. They're probably just playing out the Glistener Elf here. Tropical Island. Okay, they're going for the Ponder. I guess because we took the Source to Plowshares. Let's see what our opponent does here. They did not shuffle the library. That is interesting to me. We play this out. So we know our opponent has Karakas in their deck. Ooh, they had a Daze. Very rude. Yeah, so we know our opponent has Karakas in their deck usually with these sorts of lists. Now, they might not be into the crop rotation plan, but that does seem the better way to be at the moment. Okay, so there's a Tropical Island we know about, and there's one of the Glistener Elves. Sure. Thespian stage? No, we don't get to be that guy. So we'll play this out. We'll go green for this, black for this. So we need to multi-turn this to get it going. Another Ponder? Sure. So next turn we can go and fetch the... okay, so Winsett Teeth. We can go and fetch the Thespian stage. Is this guy coming in or not? Not coming in. Okay, interesting. They do have another one that they can cast. So I'm surprised they don't come in there. Okay, we just drew a Thespian stage, so... batter up, I guess. Depending on what our opponent does, we could always wait a turn and then have the ability to Sejiri Steppe, the removal spell our opponent might have. We'll see what our opponent does here, though. Okay. Another Noble Hierarch. So we know our opponent's got another Glistener Elf in hand. They can still have a... to play around the... So they got one Glistener Elf in hand. So if they have an Invigorate and a Berserk, we die. I'm pretty sure this Tropical Island is still in their hand. But I've got a horrible feeling I might have... because that's the one they bounced on turn 1. So it shouldn't be in our revealed section. No, I think we can take it here. Okay. And then we can play around the removal spell next turn. Boseiju who endures. Does that do anything? I don't think so. So this plays around Source to Plowshares and lets us block with our Reclaimer as well. Which I think we have to do this turn. We don't want to block with our Indestructible guy because it gets -1 counters from the Infect damage. There's the Tropical Island. So the choice is here. If they have an Invigorate, it's lethal. So I think we have to block here. So we're going to do this now. So we can pump. I think we can activate this guy. And we're probably sacrificing the Ghost Quarter here, I think. So this will make our guy 3/4. Can't really play around the removal here. There's the plow on our guy. But this does get us a Sejiri Steppe, which protects our guy. And takes that out. So they're going to play this other Glistener Elf in their hand now. Whew, it's a real game we got going here. We have loads of life, but that's not really what matters in this matchup. A Mox Diamond, does that do a thing for us? Play out this as a Saga. So we have to get Thespian stage first and then Dark Depths is the way it works. We have a choice to make when our opponent attacks. Do we think that the one card or the two cards in their hand, do we think they have an Invigorate, basically? If they have an Invigorate, we have to block here. I think we do block, and then we can use this on the Expedition map in a bit. So I think we block here. What is this? An Endurance. Interesting. Wasn't expecting the Endurance from our opponent there. We can't shuffle this in and get it back, unfortunately. We sacrifice this Sejiri Steppe because that doesn't do a lot for us. So we have the choice here. I think we just get the Thespian stage. And then we're making chump blocks with our as a Saga token next turn. Of course we draw the other one. That's how the game works sometimes, isn't it? So I kind of want to keep the Boseiju just in case our opponent has the... so we need 2 mana for this. And we can play 2 mana for this. So that's not really going to get us anywhere. We can play out our Mox Diamond just to make our construct bigger. We'll probably pitch off our Thespian stage here. Now we can make our construct token and give it lifelink, but lifelink isn't what we need right now. It does make our guy 1 bigger, I suppose. So maybe we could have played then and equipped that. Could we played and equip that? Yeah, maybe. But I think I'd rather just keep the Boseiju open in case something bizarre happens. Okay, so they didn't have the thing. Interesting. Let's see what we draw. A Vampire Hexmage. So this goes and gets us Expedition map, which costs 2 mana to pop. So we pay 2 to pop it to get the... So we pay these 2 to pop it. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana left over. So if we pay 2 into this now to make a 2/2, then pay 2 to pop the map. So we can't actually have our cake and eat it right now. Okay. So we'll go and get our Expedition map. I probably should have fetched with their Windswept Heath, really. Probably want to do it with the Urborg here, right? Let's crack this. Get ourselves a Dark Depths. And to play out our Dark Depths. Now, we can play into a Force of Will here with our Hexmage. I don't hate that, though. Okay. So we can make a 20/20 and we can Boseiju a Karakas if our opponent has one. It's been a pretty interesting game, actually, this one. It'd be more interesting if I win it, I suppose, but can't always have everything. So if our opponent has a Berserk here, we're in trouble. So this will lose 3 counters, so it'll go down and be a 17, and this will make it an 18. So that won't be enough to kill our opponent in one swing, but they have an Endurance anyway. So I think we still do this. And we block with this. This means our opponent can't win with the Berserk. We have to grind for the Endurance anyway, so... Invigorate? Sure. Thoughtseize, that's a pretty good one. Let's see what our opponent's working with over there. Did they have the Berserk? They did not have the Berserk, sure. So then we can equip this onto this guy. Go to attacks. Life total, not the problem here. And they can't get any poison onto us next turn. And we have 50 health. So I feel okay. Now I can certainly get things that can interfere with it. Okay, so we got that game there. That was a really good game of Magic the Gathering, to be honest. There was a lot of back and forth. And there was lots of, what lines do I need to try and beat here? So I figured trying to beat the Berserk line there made sense. All right, let's go back to the sideboard and see if we want to change anything. So we've got our Pithing Needles. We haven't really seen the Yawgmoths yet, but they must have them in there. I haven't seen crop rotation either, which is one of the reasons you might want an opposition agent. But I don't think we do. I think we just want to keep what we've got going here. The pyroblast is kind of maybe a choke, instead of a pyroblast. But we do need to blow up their guy in emergency sometimes. Maybe we'll cut one crop rotation because they're not great against counterspell decks. This is the turn 2 2020 in it. So I guess we keep. Thoughtseize would be a really good draw. We're going to crack the Misty Rainforest. They did not crack the Misty Rainforest. Got him. I don't think our opponent's going to be very happy with that. An Yawgmoth Nexus. Sure, that's why they did that, I suppose. Play this out. They can't daze us. They can tap their Misty Rainforest for mana, though. But it's only black mana. So if they don't have a white source here, we don't have to worry about our 2020 getting killed. Okay, so they've got a green source. Animating their Nexus, sure. But I don't want to lose this game from our opponent having a like triple invigorate hand again. Okay, so they're just done there. Turn 2 2020, pretty good. That's why, personally for me, I prefer the Dark Depths builds with Vampire Hexmage in. Just the ability to just go get you just feels really strong. Alright, so we are 3-1 going into the final round now. So this deck's looking alright. This is our opening hand. We're on the draw. I don't really like it. I think we can do better. This is okay. We have a little bit of interaction. We will need to draw something if we keep this hand, though. Is this actually good enough to keep? Is the question. I think we can keep on the draw. I'm not very happy with this hand. I'm going to put back the Dark Depths. We can put the Bojuka Bog underneath if we need to, and we can Pithing Needle on Wasteland turn 1. Flooded Strand. So this could be Delver, it could be a control deck. We'll see. Okay, it looks like a Delver deck. Sure. So what are we doing here? Probably basic Swamp. Not basic Forest. Probably basic Swamp is fine here. We want to keep this Bojuka Bog now as a thing. I think we probably play around the days here. Play this one out. Probably get rid of the snow-covered forest here. We'll Thoughtseize our opponent. Force of Will, Murktide region, Wasteland. So we take the Force of Will. How quickly do they get up to Murktide mana, and can we beat it? Yes, I think we can because we've got the Bojuka Bog. I think we take the Force of Will this turn. And then we play out this, naming Wasteland. We could name Misty Rainforest and be a real meanie, but I think it is best actually for us to play the Wasteland out here. And then next turn we Bojuka Bog, remove our opponent's graveyard so that Murktide is very far away. A Pyroblast. That's not going to do anything against us, which is nice. There's the Ponder being cast. These games against Delver are a little bit tricky. Okay, it's a Misty Rainforest. And they're going to get bashed up for 3. We will need to find some action here. That's not really action, is it? So exile our opponent's graveyard here. We don't get the Misty Rainforest, I didn't crack it. But Murktide is looking a ways away right now. They can just target something with a Pyroblast. Explosive Iteration with the old border. It looks pretty gross, to be honest, but not a fan really of the multicoloured old borders. A Mystic Sanctuary, sure. We take 3 here. We need to draw. That's not the one, is it? Okay. Like, we can manually remove some counters from it, but that's not really going to get us anywhere, is it? There's that guy. And Ponder. So they're probably going to be able to Murktide next turn. So we really need to make the 2020 this coming turn. Or we probably lose. They did not shuffle the Library of the Ponder, which is a little bit worrying. The Wasteland and a Delver. Sure, their plan might be just to make enough guys that it doesn't even matter. Oh, they didn't attack. Interesting. They were fearful of what we could have. Guess we can play out an Urborg. Like I said, we could have been removing ice counters from this, but it's better just to hold up our mana because we're never realistically going to remove 10 counters from that. Not in this matchup. In a control matchup, yeah, why not? But when our opponent's got a clock and removing 10 counters is going to take a lot longer than it takes them to kill us, even if we can remove one of these guys. This feels bad. So they're just hitting us with... Interesting that they're coming in now. They might have a lightning bolt just to finish us off, to be fair. We should explain why they didn't attack last turn. Well, they're just going to make the Murktide. This makes not the most amount of sense to me, to be honest. Why they didn't attack the previous turn. Nope, we are just dead here. Okay, so Delver again, is it? Pyroblast we had before, Ley Lines we had, and the Choke we had. The Opposition Agent is bad, so we don't want that. Pithing Needle's good. The Karakas was bad. Sejiri Steppe is still fine here. Crop rotations less good against Delver. Sylvan Library, we don't really have the life total to work with that. We need to keep our removal spells. Are we boarding out Fable the Mirror Breaker? I think so. We've got 2 more slots to find. I like having discard. It's probably 2 crop rotations, isn't it? Because they're not great against decks that can mess with your things. Do we want this Toxic Deluge? If we're Leylining of the Void, our opponent, although the Fables are good with Leyline, aren't they? So yeah, maybe we're just getting rid of these crop rotations. Which makes the Sejiri Steppe a bit worse too. But we can use it to push through damage still, so it's not the end of the world. And we have Reclaimer to find it still. I don't know if we can fit in a Toxic Deluge here. It's a lot of mana and paying an additional cost that can really backfire. I think we're just going to submit like this. I think that's what I did last time, more or less. But we'll see. This gets there, and it has Wasteland Protection. So, I guess we start out with Thespian stage here. That way, if we draw an Urborg, we can go quicker. Alright. Scalding Tarn from our opponent's side. Volcanic Island into Dragon's Rage Channel. Okay, so this is not going to attack us for 3. But it does get them to search for the things that they need. Like even just as a 1 mana guy that filters stuff, it's very good. Some might say too good to be in Legacy. Another Thespian stage. So I think we are Urza Sagaing here. So we can play an Urza Saga game or we can play a Dark Depths game. We could play out Dark Depths that turn in case we draw an Urborg next turn, but I don't think it's worth doing that when we could have an Urza Saga which can get us some life and stuff. Okay, this is Delver. Our opponent's got 5 cards in hand. A Dark Depths, sure. So this turn we just play out a swamp. We make a guy. And we make another guy. Maybe. We'll see what our opponent is up to at the time. I did not flip. Okay. A Wasteland that doesn't do anything just yet. And a Blood Moon. I see. That's a little bit on the mean side. We don't have a green source anywhere in the battlefield to copy with this Thespian stage. So I think we are just making a guy. Okay, so our opponent has Blood Moons. Good to know. You don't see them in Delver decks very often. A Boseiju. Okay, that's going to be great if we draw any green source. So I guess we play this out. How does this race look? Not great for us. This keeps the Dragon's Race Channeler at bay. We just need to find a green source. And then we blow up the Blood Moon uncounterably with Boseiju. This becomes a 20/20. We bap our opponent for 20 damages. So what do we need? Our basic forest or a Mox Diamond. An expedition map can get us there slowly. Also, a Plague Engineer will be okay here. Not great, but okay. A Delver, sure. Okay, Plague Engineer looking like another mighty fine draw here. Come on, deck. That's not really the one, is it? I guess we can play out a mountain. I don't think we need to play out another ley line here, but what else are we doing with our mana is another question. We can't cast actually because it's black, isn't it? We need black for it. I guess we just hold our guy back. That would have been a great turn to draw the Plague Engineer because it will shrink their flip Delver and kill their other 2 creatures. Does this flip? It does not flip. They have an Expressive Iteration in hand, which I suspect they're going to cast this turn since it's a good card. Off of the Wasteland. And they binned off a Volcanic Island. Just need a green source. Not many of those in our deck, unfortunately. So this could prove challenging. A Bayou. Not quite a green source, is it? Guess we have no reason not to play it out. We still hold back our iron blocks. If we can draw a Shadowspear, that's also fine. Not great, but can buy us in probably 2 turns, I think. This is gone, isn't it? Our opponent looks like they have a hardcast Force of Will as an option. It's close. We're getting close. We're in and around it. This is another reason why I quite like the turbo build with the Elvish Spirit Guides. It's got more green sources as well. You got Lotus Petals in there too. So we're on a 3 outer at this point, I think. We have other draws that are okay. 3 of our draws win us the game, I think. So that's 4 draws because we got the Expedition map as well. So we've got 4 draws that can win us the game. We've got some draws that just keep us alive for a bit. So Shadowspear can buy us some time, and Plague Engineer can buy us some time. But we are not looking good. Just got caught out by an unorthodox sideboard choice from the Delver player, which is probably going to win them the game. So some good inclusion in their deck there. So we've got 1 more turn, and we might just be dead to lightning bolts anyway. They probably don't still have the lightning bolts in their deck. Feels like they're not great here. But it depends how much they've got to board out, really. Is this a turn? Okay. So we are just dead. Alright, so we got ourselves a 3 and 2. Let's have a look at the deck. So, how do I feel about this deck? It was pretty good, actually. It kind of just did the ordinary Depthsy type stuff that I'm used to. There was that game against the red deck where they Fable the Mirror Breaker against the Painter deck, I think it was, where the Fable the Mirror Breaker was really good. Now our opponent just hit run around a Fury and killed us. But, you know. Sorry, that wasn't the... that was the initiative deck, really, wasn't it? It wasn't the Painter deck. So we did manage to beat them. But the Fable the Mirror Breaker looked pretty good there. The losses we had was that Delver player where they just happened to have an unorthodox choice in their sideboard that caught us off guard and beat us. We had a few options where we could still win that game, but we were massively reducing the number of outs we had. I think it was just the 4 towards the back end. Obviously, we had other options where we could have stayed in the game a little bit. And then there was the Painter matchup where I went and got a Pithing Needle naming Urza Saga, where to basically stop them from getting 2 constructs into play. And they just happened to have the nuts and just have the 2 soul lands to the additional City of Traitors to just kill us that turn with the Painter they had in hand as well. So sometimes they do get... And obviously the second game against Painter was just getting mooned out of the game one, I think, wasn't it? If I recall rightly. I can't remember now. But yeah, so we were a little bit unfortunate with the Painter decks. Painter decks always tend to have the nuts when I play them on my channel. But I think this is fine against Painter. Not great, not terrible, but fine. If you had more Force of Vigors, it would be better. But I think it's fine. And the loss against the Delver was a little bit unfortunate. But yeah, so the deck seems fine. But the question I have is, how much more value is these 4 cards? So you've got 2 Pyroblast and 2 Fable the Mirror Breakers. These 4 cards, like, don't get me wrong, they're good cards, but they are forcing you into having these 2, this Badlands and this Taiga in your deck. And we also have the 3 as a Saga in our deck, which definitely forced me to mulligan more than I would have liked, having the 4 Saga there. So the trade-off isn't free, that's for sure. And I am curious about the 1 Sylvan Library instead of just having a 3rd Fable. Like, I guess Sylvan Library does technically draw you more cards rather than filtering, but you have so many cards that you're happy to filter away with a Fable, and it is just a very good card to have if you're caught under an unlucky Blood Moon, for example. I'm not convinced this is better than like a green-black version doing the same thing at the end of the day. I think it's close. I think overall the percentages are probably going to cost you a little bit more than if you were to. And I definitely think the turbo depth builds are just better because they have the 8 fast mana sources that let you power things out and really put the screws to your opponent quickly, as well as having more protection for your Merit Lage. It's definitely a problem when your Merit Lage gets bounced and messed around. So I think I prefer that build, but this build is definitely playable. I can certainly see how, was it Kilroy managed to get a 5-0 with this deck. It seems perfectly solid, perfectly serviceable depth deck. I guess one of my complaints maybe would be the Torpor Orb. I understand why it's in there, because like the Dark Depths decks can really jam you up. And also the Toxic Deluge I don't like. I think the Toxic Deluge, because we've already got the Plague Engineers, why not just have a Virtue's Ruin in there? Because that's kind of killing the things we're most concerned about a lot of the time. Although if the Toxic Deluge does kill the Magus. But having one card that kills Magus, and you need to have black mana for it, seems not great. I'd be more inclined to include some sort of red card that could kill Magus of the Moon. So maybe there could be some sort of Wrath type effect. So maybe Brotherhood's End, but that's obviously very niche because you need double red for it. Maybe there's just a different sweeper that you could play, because the Toxic Deluge requires you to have black mana and draw this one-off card against the Maguses and against all the aggro-y decks. It's costing you a lot of life, and they can just sometimes just kill you because you have to pay 5 life to kill a 3-mana card or whatever. So maybe there's a better sweeper that we can have here. The opposition agents weren't very good, but we didn't really play against decks like Doomsday or anything like that where they would shine. So I think you could probably tweak the sideboard a little bit. Now, obviously, if you hit the right matchups, the sideboard's going to look good, but that's the nature of Magic. You can't be 100% certain what you're going to play. But I think you could probably get slightly better percentages by tweaking that sideboard a bit. All right, I think we're done. This was quite a fun one. I do like playing like proper Vampire Hexmage style depth decks, and I've got a couple more to do, I think. I'm trying to hit 12 December decks for the month. I've got a few more in the tank, so one of them's quite spicy though, but probably not as spicy as the mono white one I played the other day, which if you didn't watch yet, you should definitely check out. All right, thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. All these things help me out and are also just nice to see people doing, because, you know, a bit of feedback doesn't hurt. All right, thanks for watching and goodbye.